I know nothing about it outside of the whole exploding graphics cards thing.
Do you know why the graphics card was exploding, by the way? Adam Sessler did a deep dive on New World, and he
Okay.
actually explained the exploding graphics card thing, and it's kind of crazy.
No, I didn't know anything about that.
So basically, what they did is they forgot to put a line of code in on the menu screen of New World to cap the frames per second. So, so what would happen with the lower graphics cards? They already have kind of like an internal cap to them, so they were
Yeah.
fine. But the reason the 3090s were bricking is because the 3090s have like no upward cap on the certain
Oh
ones that were bricking.
God.
So the menu screen, it would load the menu screen and it was trying to run it at 9,000 frames per second.
Holy fucking ass.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Oh
they
God.
didn't put a line of code in that said like restrict it, like to communicate the lines, like to restrict it to the graphics card. So the graphics card was just like no limit, fuck it, and just like kills itself.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming, and for whatever reason you have decided to tune into another horrible gaming podcast. We've got a fun show for you today. I am not alone, nor am I ever. With me is...
Neil, aka Tiny Wizard.
And before we get into that show, we got to give credit where credit is due. Number one, if you're watching this on YouTube, behind the fancy timestamps, there are fancy graphics. A lot of them are stock photos that I pull off the internet, but if they are custom, they are done by Mr. Mark Bell, and we thank him for that. The theme song for this show, and all of our shows here at OMGW, is provided by the man who makes the music, my brother, Nick Van Slyters. We thank him for that.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
That brings us to the top of the show, our first segment and our most important segment, and that is Fanteraction. That's where us, the co-hosts, talk to you guys, the fans. We answer all your comments from YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Discord, and anywhere else we can find them. Now, you're probably used to this disclaimer. I'm going to keep making it for a while. Our recording schedule is kind of weird right now. We're recording on Thursdays, which is basically the day after the podcast goes up for you guys to comment. That being said, if we don't read out a comment that you have posted, it's because we recorded before you posted it. We will read it the following week. I'm taking notes. I'm keeping track. We will read your comments. Please bear with us while Neil goes to school and tries to better himself, basically. So that being said, we have also added a new segment called the Talk Down. It takes place right after Fanteraction. We pick one comment to glob on, to spin off, to have our own little topic about, basically. So there you go. Just so you guys know, whatever comment it is, whatever comment we pick, we'll pick another one next week. And anything that I missed will also count towards that. Just want you guys to know that ahead of time. All right, so let's get into this. First, Jason says, after party not on Game Pass. Totally weird, Jason. And that actually makes me wonder if you can get it anywhere but Steam at this point.
No, it was.
It was in
Sorry.
Games Pass.
Yeah, it was. It was in Games Pass because Kayla played through it and beat it, and it was on Games Pass.
Oh, I know.
It just came out. Yeah.
It came out, which
out of
is
Games
weird.
Pass.
Right. But what I'm saying is, it was an Xbox exclusive when it came out.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know any of that.
Yeah, so like it might be on Steam, I don't know, but I checked Games Pass just to make sure. It's not on there anymore. It was on there. It was an Xbox exclusive game. I am assuming that has expired since the creator of that company, the creator of that game is now owned by Netflix. I don't know, but just so you know, Jason, it is still a lot of fun. It was a great game. I think it was a lot of fun. Great game. Kev Tutal says, leaving in the drop counts. I like it. I think he meant the 3-2-1 that I do before in between segments. I failed to cut one last week, so I don't know if I'm gonna do that all the time. It was definitely an accident, Kev. Definitely an accident. Kev Tutel's next comment is, congratulations, Kev, our talk down. AAA studios need to be dissected, so we're going to spend a nice, hard 10 minutes on that one. So we'll come back to it, Kev, in the talk down. Congratulations on that. Moving on. He then says, this is about people being treated as human beings. I'm assuming he's speaking in reference to Blizzard. They have been treated like servants and property, which people are not. I mean, Kev, that's basically true. That's basically true. That's really the absolute crux of it. Treat people like people. Moving on, he then says, D2 Remastered is trash. D4 is going to be hot garbage. They have been a shitty employer for 20 years or more, so I'm furious that my trust was betrayed in such an incredibly huge way. I am assuming he's referring to Diablo and not the Mighty Ducks movies.
I do believe you are correct.
I've been waiting to make that joke all week. Just want to... Well, since he put it up yesterday. But I've been waiting to make that joke. All week. Yesterday. All week, 24 hours. All 24 hours of the week. Yeah. So I'm assuming Diablo. Blizzard. Yeah, Blizzard is a shadow of its former self. That's for sure. But again, they're going to continue to be what they are for a long period of time. Buckle up, everybody. They're not going anywhere. Moving on. No demos on Xbox, ? What do you call the betas and free early release stuff? Did I say there was no demos on Xbox? Did you say that? I don't think we said that. I think we said that, like, Nintendo very regularly has demos. I don't think we said Xbox doesn't have demos. Do you remember any of that comment? I think you may have misunderstood us, Kevin. Because
I do not recall.
I mean, we definitely said that, like, it was weird that Metroid didn't have a demo. Because the only time we talked about demos that I remember was Metroid not having a demo. And I said that Nintendo likes to do demos a lot more than other companies. But I don't remember actually saying that there were no demos on Xbox. I mean, I will say one thing, though, Kev. A beta and a free early release is not a demo. Just want to say that right now. You can use it as one. It's not one. So then we move on. I'm probably going to pick up... Kevin again. I'm probably going to pick up Monster Hunter Rise on PC. Teamwork makes the dream work. Don't bother. It's not that good. I mean, not in my opinion anyway. If you're a Monster Hunter World fan, I don't think it's going to speak to you in the way that Monster Hunter World does anyway. I have heard that, like, some Monster Hunter purists are very into it because it's much more like the older games, I guess.
I do not know.
Okay, all right.
I've not played a Monster Hunter game.
All right. Sharing is caring. Moving on. Kev says, I have collected a small militia of commenters. Smiley face. I'm not actually responsible for them, but it's nice having led the charge. Someone else is with me now. Yeah, you've got a couple of people commenting, man, on the semi-regs. So, congratulations on people also commenting. It's one of the reasons we decided to do the talk down is we've got more active commenters right now. Moving on. Kev says, Kayla won't need a lawyer to divorce Neil. She will just feed him to the lions at the zoo today.
Yes.
Went to the zoo for your birthday?
I did. I, as a 32-year-old man, decided for my birthday I wanted to go to the zoo. And I gotta tell you, I enjoyed every second of it.
Well, I'm glad. Are you sure you're not a 12-year-old boy?
If I shave my face, I look like a 12-year-old.
You're a pretty tall 12-year-old boy, with or without facial hair.
I would be a very freakish-looking, like, man baby. Is the only thing I can describe it as.
That would be some Robin Williams Jack shit there.
That's kind of what it is. If I were to shave my face, I actually had a discussion about this earlier in the day. One of the main reasons why I don't do it, because I hate my face without facial hair, because I look so tiny.
That's funny. All right, his next comment is objection, and he's doing that because I used an Ace Attorney still for the cold open last week. where I did the whole you should sue Kayla thing.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, all right. You didn't respond, so I didn't know if you hadn't seen it or not. Then we got William Hohen. How you doing, Will? He says, hi again. Love that hi. Zach, if someday I need a lawyer, I'm calling you. Gosh, that intro. Don't call me, man. Call my wife. She's way smarter than me. She's paralegal, and she knows all the lawyers. Call my wife. Thanks for explaining the audio soft. Was spot on for this episode. Great. Let's hope we can get it. The biggest problem with the audio stuff that I didn't explain last time is I can't hear the difference when we're recording. Like, Neil doesn't go up or down when I'm changing the levels on OBS. So Neil always sounds the same to me, and then I don't know until it's post. So that's how it's tricky. That's why I always get it wrong. He then says, Monster Hunter community is toxic? I was huge into MH during the Freedom Unite days on PSP, and the forums were great and helpful. I'm surprised it turned this way these days. Haven't played Monster Hunter since years, so I'm not saying I don't believe you. I'm just surprised at how it turned out to be. Look, Will, I'm going to say this before I continue. If you've had a positive experience, maybe it's positive for you. My experience with the Monster Hunter community, with playing with them, like, the forums are always nice. I belong to a Facebook group that was relatively nice, but I don't like that most of them are very egotistical about everything. They're very proud about numbers. There's a lot of, especially when you're playing the game, people will just, drop you if you're not high enough level or good enough for them. There's actually a YouTuber who's a real dirty, toxic prick. I can't remember what his name is. Phil would remember his name. It's something like the Economist Gamer or something like that. And he's, you can watch his videos. He's toxic in his videos. So, and he's a bigger time thing. My particular response is I posted a video saying I thought I was being very fair about my criticisms of Monster Hunter Rise. It was one of our most popular videos and our most downvoted video of all time. The Monster Hunter community came together to call me a dumb shit for basically 2 weeks. So it's put a bad taste in my mouth, Will. So it's possible that, you could play Monster Hunter and have a good experience. It's just, for me, I have been inundated by all the worst in the community, so maybe that's skewing my vision of them. Then moving on, he comments some more. I feel soon enough the word blizzard will be used as a swear word. Like, you hit your thumb with a hammer and you say blizzard. I really like that one. I don't know why you're not giggling.
Aw, Blizzard.
Aw, Blizzard. Blizzard me. Blizz me.
Though, Blizzard is always going to be synonymous with tasty ice cream treats. So...
Yeah, Dairy Queen kind of pulls them out of the fire every time with the word association. As I comment this, I've heard it's your birthday, Neil. Happy birthday, Tiny Wizard, says Will.
Yes, thank you very much.
He then says, Apple said fuck you to Fortnite because they went to appeal the decision after they won what they claimed they wanted. I won't cry for them. He then says, wait, Stadia is still a thing? Not really. Not really. And then he says, great show. Thanks to both of you. # boycott Halo. Love this guy. Love him. I already loved his post because of the boycott Halo. I'm going to thumbs up it now to know where my place is. Then we switch off to Jason. The clothing company has in-game stuff too. Speaking on the Fortnite stuff that you did for odds and ends.
Yeah.
My nephew doesn't understand why they put this crap in the game because he's 12 and wants Carnage and Superman.
Honestly, I'm with him. I
definitely take Carnage and Superman over a $1,200 hoodie. That's for sure. Jason then continued. As someone who has read / played / watched a lot of Cyberpunk, I can't help but view large corporation with the same contempt I have for the federal government. Jason, I almost called this as the talking point, but I know that I would have gotten too political on it, so that's why I avoided it. But in a lot of ways, I completely and totally agree with you. We're going to move on, though. Jason then added, because I asked him to say what they removed from ActRaiser. Like, why ActRaiser 2 sucked compared to ActRaiser 1.
Mm-hmm.
So, he answered the question. In ActRaiser, you play as some sort of divine entity. You float above the world in a sky temple and guide your people by building things and casting spells and such. You also have certain spots where you possess a statue sculpted in your own image and fight through the level to kill a boss. Being SNES, it was sort of simplistic, but it was cool at the time. ActRaiser 2 just has you fighting through level after level without the guiding your people in the town builder, turning it into just another platformer. Which, yeah, I don't know if I would have liked that mix of things, but it definitely seems like the thing that set that game apart. So I don't know why they'd take that out.
Yeah, I don't know. That is kind of bizarre, and something like that too. Like just going back to it again, just like the idea of it, just way before its time.
Yeah. It's really weird. He then also writes, Soul Blazer was great. We asked him what Soul Blazer was. You start in this little flat spot in Indie Mountain, and as you play, you free souls who alter the landscape and or restore the townspeople. So when you're done with the first area, there's a town in the formerly empty space. Then you do the same thing in other areas. One level is a house. Excuse me. One level is a house with two miniature escapes that you shrink down into and go through. One open stuff in the other, so you go back and forth. I rented the game so many times, I probably should have bought it. That is interesting. I still have never heard of that game. I'm going to have to look that one up, see if it's playable somewhere. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
And then the final comment he makes, and I have a terrible memory, maybe you could shed some light on this, is he just writes Tailspin. Now, I do want to say, right off the bat, I am not necessarily sure what he is referring to, but Tailspin is the greatest Disney afternoon show ever made. Ever. I will go to my grave and I will fight anyone who says otherwise. It was phenomenal. And I still want an open world game about Tailspin. But side note, why is he talking about Tailspin? Do you remember?
I feel like it's like on the tip of my tongue. I feel like there was some sort of connection somewhere.
There's gotta be
something. I can't recall it at this moment.
I can't either. I want an open world Tailspin game. And for anybody out there listening to this who does not know what Tailspin is, if you have Disney Plus, it's on there in its entirety. Go watch it. It's amazing. The animation is a little weird, but the story is phenomenal. Basically, it's a kid's show, but it's a kid's show about Baloo from the Jungle Book. But he's not Baloo in a Jungle Book. He's in this weird, different reality where all the people are replaced by animals, and everybody lives on islands in a vast ocean, so pilots of planes are the most important resource, and he runs basically a shipping company. And that's the fucking show. It's amazing. It's absolutely... He's like bankrupt, and then this woman comes in and buys him out, and she's awful to him, but like they somehow make it work. And then he just gets into trouble. There's sky pirates. There's all sorts of stuff. Like, again, show for kids, but I'm telling you, it's so much fun, like, just to watch. I love Tailspin. Still to this day, I love Tailspin.
I remember it existing, and I know I'd seen a couple episodes, but I don't remember much of it.
Can I tell you why I liked it so much?
Why is that?
The reason I liked it so much, I guess we should have made this the talk down. The reason I liked it so much was because of all the Disney like shows that they did. This felt the most original. Like DuckTales was good, but DuckTales was just like, we expand on Scrooge McDuck and Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Darkwing was fine, but it was a kind of a parody of Batman. And like all of the Disney Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, another good one, but it was still just kind of like Chip and Dale, but they wear clothes and they save people. With fucking this, it was so like completely, like, it was a completely different world. They had to world build, and like Shere Khan runs a company, and like he's kind of evil but not. And then there's like Louis has a bar, and then he had a gas thing that floats around in the sky. Like, it's so interesting. It's such a weird like world that they created there. That's why I liked it so much. It's my take on Tailspin. Really should have just talked about that in the in-between and used that as a bonus.
It's fine.
All right, well, that's it for fan traction, unless you got something to add, man.
No.
Let's hit that talk down.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to our new segment, second week for our new segment, and that is the talk down. The talk down is where me or Neil, we pick a comment from your wonderful comments out there, and we decide to spin it off into a small, quick talking point. And I do want to just put the rule out there that it doesn't necessarily have to be about games. Just going to say that from now on. We may pick something that's just about like stuff going on, or just like fun things we want to talk about. Whatever. So I just want to say that talk down is not restricted to games. But for this week, we did, Kev Tutal said, AAA studios need to be dissected. Dissected. I picked this one, and the reason I picked this one was because of his very, very specific wording there as to being dissected. Not burned, not destroyed, but dissected. I don't know if he meant it this way, but personally, I think that's a really interesting idea. Like, almost like split them up as if they were a monopoly. And what would that do to the games industry if you took all the AAA studios and AAA companies and cut them up into little AA studios?
Well, it's funny that that's what you hone in on, is the semantics of it, because when you think of it like that, I mean, it can also mean to like looking at this one company and just like picking it apart piece by piece and figuring out like what the fuck, like where is the rot?
That's true.
Where's the bad part of it, or at
like
least
an experiment?
The worst part of it? Like, not even like an experiment. I mean, like, we talk all the time about like, oh, individual CEOs or something, like, this guy sucks.
Right.
Like, well, is he the part that's bad? You remove that individual with surgical precision.
Right.
Maybe things can improve. Maybe it's a director. Maybe it's a large chunk of staff that needs replaced.
Right.
I mean, either way works for this.
I mean, that's true. It does work both ways. I would love to see, I mean, I've said this repeatedly, I would love to see, I think AAA companies, especially, like, now they even have acquisition season. Like, if you go on Twitter, they talk about it in the gaming stuff, like acquisition season. There's actually a season now for big companies like Microsoft and other AAA companies like EA and them just buying up little studios. What? That's crazy. They become these giant globulous masses that just float around. And I think that, like, I think there's a lot of studios and a lot of companies that are really hurt by this. And at first, it's very appealing to them to be pulled in because of that extra cash, that extra revenue, and that safety net. But I think a lot of them find it harder to deal with them because they have to kind of play by the new company's rules, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and like going into that aspect of it too as well, like, I don't see why Activision and Blizzard are under one single umbrella. They don't rely on each other for anything. That, like, whenever you think Blizzard, I know personally, I don't immediately think of Activision. The only reason I do is because, it's all the same company, Activision and Blizzard. Blizzard are the RPG / hero shooter people, hero shooter now, and Activision is the shooty bang bang, shooty bang bang, like
Call of Duty Shoot 'em Man.
Yeah, Call of Duty Shoot 'em Man. Like, that's pretty much what Activision does anymore.
But if you look at Activision too, like, even that, like, yeah, they produce Call of Duty, like, that's their that's their thing. However, how many companies in that company produce Call of Duty? You got Treyarch, Sledgehammer,
Oh
the
yeah.
other one. I mean, like there's so many little studios in there that have to all kind of like be a part of the major whole. I would love to see what Treyarch, Sledgehammer, or the other one, because I can't remember what it is, would look like
Was
by
it
itself.
Raven?
Raven was something else. I don't think they're owned by
Raven-
Activision. They were like contracted out to do the story for one of the Call of Duties, I thought.
Now I'm looking up Call of Duty Studios.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe.
I mean, still, I would love to
Studios
see what
owned.
those companies could do by themselves, you know. And it's just, it's a bummer that I'm sure that that those companies, not all of them, are like nightmares to work at, you know, those studios. But they're all under this umbrella of just the worst fucking two companies in the world right now, you know.
Call of Duty, Activision, Treyarch, Infinity Ward.
Infinity Ward. Oh, did they get rid of Sledgehammer then? They must have.
No, Sledgehammer's in there too. I mean, I think it's kind of what you were saying, that like one part of them does something else and this, that, and the other. But I think that's also part of like the fact that they want to be an annualized series. It's the only way that they can do it is by having 3 entire studios that just do that.
Yep. And that's true. It's just like, it's the same with like EA. Like, EA has tons of companies under its umbrella. Tons. I mean, tons of studios under its umbrella. Like, and those studios each make very, very different games from one another. So I would like to see, like AAA companies dissected would be, on that front, the front I was talking about, would be very interesting to me. On the corruption front, that is true. The problem with the dissecting it for corruption is I don't think... You get into really murky waters there, you know? It's not as easy as just like...
Oh, yeah.
You know, like where does that... okay, do we get rid of Bobby Kotick and everything's fine? Probably not. You know, like, it's kind of like where... Like, that would be like cutting the tree off and leaving the stump. Like, the roots are all over the place, and where do the roots go? Do they connect to your foundation? Like where exactly does the corruption stop? Where does the good stuff begin? You know, like, that would be really tough. I find it hard to cut the cancer away in that kind of situation.
Well, that's where a properly functioning HR department that doesn't shred documents when they're investigated would come in. I almost wonder, too, if, since this is kind of like a side thing, just to briefly mention, like, I almost wonder if something like an external company being like an HR company would be something that could work out. Like, not necessarily like an intervention or arbitration sort of situation, but like an actual company whose reputation is on the line by, you know, being an HR department. Now, that's something that's like probably something that doesn't exist or be very hard to implement. But
yeah,
it would just, I feel like it would be something that
would help
turn the tide, at least.
I think that would be a good idea. It would be like the ESRB for human rights in the video game company. And I think that's a great idea. It's just, where does the money come from for that? And how do we keep it from being corrupted? Like, does it come from the government? Does it come from, like, the companies chipping in and then making it its own entity? Like, how do we create that? That'd be a great idea. Because, I mean, look, not to be a cynic, but let's face it, you guys have listened to 112 episodes, and I'm a cynic, and have been and will probably always be a cynic. But any HR company working for a company, their job is to protect the company. It's not really to protect the people. It never has been, never will be. Like, I mean, those people are employed by the company that are abusing the people in the first place. So, like, yeah, that's where you go if you're in a company. But at the end of the day, that's just not what they're there for. They're there to protect the company's interests from lawsuit. That's why they exist. So, like, an HR type company to help people in situations like this that's outside the confines of the companies that are doing the abuse, I think is a great idea. It's just, again, you get into the same situation you get in with unions or the government or anybody. It's like, how do we keep that itself from being corrupted, you know?
Right.
And I don't know, because the responsibilities of that would be so much higher than the ESRB, you know?
Right.
Like, we always go back to the ESRB and we say this is the shining example, but the ESRB, all they do is say, like, all they do is give age ratings to video games. That's all they do. And that really doesn't affect the sales of games. It hasn't in a long time. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know, like, how we, like, so nobody's trying to corrupt that because nobody gives a shit. So, like, I don't know what we do on that to keep that kind of an institution from being corrupted. But that is an interesting idea. Really, it is. All right, well, I think that was a good talk down. What do you think?
Sure.
Nice tight 10 minutes. We did it. We managed it. Well, let's move on to our first talking point, which I'm actually excited about because it's a little bit more positive and fun.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
It brings us to our first talking point, ladies and gentlemen, and it's kind of a fun one. Because after TGS, we got actual confirmation from Konami that they are making games again. We don't know what games. We don't know when. They're coming out. We have seen no trailers, no announced trailers. We have no idea who's working on what. But from what we understand, Konami is working on video games. And there is some hard evidence to support this. So, Neil, what comes first, man? What comes first for Konami? How does Konami break back into the gaming market? Because although Konami is synonymous with games, they've been making Plinko machines for about the last 20 years. So how do they get back into, in my opinion, a market that has completely changed from when they did this?
See, I don't know, because I'm concerned that they see like monetization as it is now as like a live service, microtransaction-y, loot boxy, sort of whatever the new flavor of the week is in regard to any of that.
Okay.
I'm concerned that they put something out that focuses on like that. My knee-jerk reaction,
if it's good, it's fine. I know that you just like hear the word games as service and get all fucking frigid, but like that isn't inherently bad. If they do it right, it's going to be good.
I feel like though that there's some games out there that just don't work with that sort of idea. So like I feel like the main two that they could come in with right out of the gate would be a brand new Castlevania, even though there is the Grimoire of Souls game on Apple Arcade. I don't think that necessarily counts. Or Silent Hill. Now, Castlevania did have multiplayer at one point with the one game, and it turned out okay.
Yeah,
but
it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was all right. It was fine. But a Silent Hill game, if they were to make a Silent Hill game, something that people have been clamoring for so long, that has had other games come out in its vein to kind of pick up the slack, you know, a la Obsidian with Outer Worlds sort of situation. If they tried to put like make it be a live service or put microtransactions in it or something like that, people will knee jerk away from that so fast, and they can't. I don't think they can try to even attempt to do Metal Gear again after they bungled it last time so hard with Metal Gear Survive, and Kojima's so closely attached to that series. I don't think the fans would accept it.
Okay, all right. So
There's a lot of things there.
There's a lot of stuff to unpack. I don't know where I want to start on. I do want to say I do think you're right on Silent Hill, but I personally think that it would be career suicide for them to release a Silent Hill game. And here's why. And I know Jason might disagree with me. I don't know. Maybe he'll agree with me. Who knows? But the real problem with it is PT. Anybody who wants to play Silent Hill, who wants to play the next Silent Hill game, they're thinking about PT as what it's going to be, and it's not going to be that, because that was a Kojima side project. But Kojima himself has said that was going to be the next Silent Hill, and then they just never followed through with it because of Konami, you know?
Yeah, so, that whole thing happened.
Yeah, so like I don't think that you could pull that off. I think if you do that, it's career suicide. Because how do you separate that from the horror genre that is? I mean, I don't play them, but they're amazing right now. They're very like in depth and into it, and I don't know how you make a Silent Hill game now. I don't know how Konami makes a Silent Hill game now and makes it what people want. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's something I thought about too in the middle of me saying that is the expectation. That expectation. Yeah. What they set up with PT and what they were going to do with Silent Hills and the just absurd hype. Like that game, that the playable demo of PT just being on a PlayStation hard drive can make your PlayStation go for like $1,000 online, which is craziness.
Yeah. So how do you have? How do you release that? How do you release a follow up to that? You know, because everybody associates it with it since Kojima said that, and I feel like that immediately puts you in this really, really, really rough situation. You know.
Now, here, just sidebar, real quick on that.
Sure. We got time.
Do we think that enough water has passed under the bridge that Konami approaches Kojima and says, "Hey, you know that thing that we were gonna do? Here you go. It's yours." Or let's find a way to make this work situation.
I mean,
do we think that's a possibility?
No, I don't think that's okay. So I think it's a possibility that they would approach him. I definitely think that's a possibility. Do I think that Kojima is going to be willing to put his insane, crazy mind, ego aside and make another one of those licensed projects? No way. He thinks it's below him now. He's too fucking egotistical and full of himself right now. He would never make another Silent Hill. He would never make another Silent Hill, and he's never going to make another Metal Gear. I'm telling you right now. He wants to do weird shit like Death Stranding. Like, that's what he wants to do. And, like, that's what he's going to do is just weird, full of himself shit for the rest of his life. I can't see a company like that coming to him and being like, "Hey, you want to make another Silent Hill?" And being like, "Yeah," like that dude thinks he doesn't shit. Like that's the level that guy's in his own head. So I just don't see him accepting it. Honestly, I definitely could see Konami being like, "Hey, you want to do this?" I would see him rejecting it. Unfortunately, that's where I see that with. Personally, I only see two ways for them to go right now. Honestly, I think that you're right. I think Metal Gear Solid is another one. I think the big problem with Konami is Kojima left, and Kojima, I don't like the guy. I've never liked the guy, but he took all his clout with it, and he did something very smart, which he attached himself to these big name properties almost wholeheartedly. Like he attached himself to Metal Gear. He attached himself to Silent Hill, not in a way that just like he wrote it. He made himself the face of those games. Because he made himself a face of those games, nobody in the world is going to want to see a game in those series without him behind it.
Yeah,
and that was him. That's all him. Like he kind of stole those properties from Konami. I don't think Konami can do anything with either one of those properties unless his name is somehow attached to it. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think you're right. I don't think that they would be confident enough to put anything out
right
in the vein of those things without Kojima's name attached to it, because they are going to draw those comparisons immediately. Right. I mean, look at what happened with Metal Gear. I mean, Metal Gear survived. It was a dumb premise to begin with, but you know, the fact that even was a thing that they tried to do without Kojima was, I think a lot of people had that same thought, was just like, why even?
Honestly, and from what I hear, the game itself wasn't that bad fundamentally. Like it actually played relatively decently and was a very interesting game on its own, but because Kojima wasn't attached to it. I mean, I think there's more to it too. I think they attached the Metal Gear name to a game that could have been anything. Like, why did they make that game a Metal Gear game? Why didn't they just make it a game? Why did it have to be like in the Metal Gear? Like, they tried to use the name to just sell a new game, and you can't do that. you know.
Right.
I think it probably would have been more successful if they had just named it anything other than Metal Gear. If they had put anything before that title other than Metal Gear, you know.
Yeah.
Personally, I think there's only one choice for their opener. There's only one choice, and that's Castlevania.
Yeah.
I-
It's Castlevania.
I don't think they get back into this business with any other property. The problem is though is how do you do a Castlevania in the modern day right now and make it successful? Because the platformers are great. I think they hold up. Most of them do. Castlevania Symphony of the Night still holds up. I would say that would be on my list for best games of all time, like easily. Just because you could still go back to it today, you could still play it, you could still have the same fun you had back in PlayStation 1 days. And that's just the truth. That being said, I don't think you can make that game today and it be as popular.
See, I don't know. I think I'm going into this conversation with.
Let's get into it, man. Let's get the fuck into it.
I'm going into this conversation with Metroid Dread.
Okay.
It comes out tomorrow. Reviews already dropped. Rave reviews all over the place of this game. And that is a series that outside of the 3DS remake has been primarily in 3D for a while. So Castlevania has toyed around back and forth with 3D, 2D, this, that, and the other. And Metroid Dread has done a premium like 2.5D sort of look and feel. I think that's what you do with Castlevania. I think you open those rooms up a lot more. You make it more fast paced. Make it almost, I hesitate to say twitchy, but almost like a twitchy sort of game, and make it in the vein of like a Soulsy sort of game.
Okay.
I think that's how you bring Castlevania back in a 2D form in this day and age. I think that's how you can do it. I think that they can't, they tried the 3D thing. I don't think 3D is the way to go necessarily with the series, just because they've always drawn comparison to God of War. And I feel like that's something now, like, I think that there's some games that elicit comparisons and it's a good thing. I don't think that's a game that would elicit a comparison and I don't think it would be a good thing in that case.
Okay. All right. So let me argue with some points. Number one, good call on the Metroid Dread, because that's not what I was using for comparison in my head. I was using Bloodstain, honestly. And Bloodstain's a success. It's a successful indie game. It's not what a company like that would need to open with. It just isn't. However, I am going to try and counter your point a little bit. And again, great point on Metroid Dread, because that game is going to sell like gangbusters without a doubt. But I think that game is going to sell like gangbusters because of really good hype marketing. You've got a groundswell and you've got a great company behind it, like that puts out quality things. Like, I think that's a perfect storm to make a 2D platformer popular in the zeitgeist. I don't think Konami has been doing that with Castlevania. Castlevania has basically been dead. You've gotten these weird collections and stuff. You've gotten this and that. Metroid, I don't know. I just feel like Nintendo has kept the memory of it alive better than Konami has kept Castlevania alive. I think Metroid is a little bit more in the zeitgeist than Castlevania is, and that's why I don't think you can open that with a 2D game. I don't think you can. I just don't think. I mean, okay. I think you could make a Castlevania 2D game any day of the week. What I'm saying is, if Konami's getting back into this business, they need a big opener. They need a big opening salvo to like say, "Hey, we're back." I don't think a 2D platformer is going to do that for them. I think it works for Nintendo because Nintendo doesn't need that opener. Nintendo has plenty of 3D games that work just fine. They've got Breath of the Wild, if you want that. They've got Mario. They've been releasing all sorts of games all year round just for the last 10 years and doing a great job of it, whereas Konami hasn't released anything at all. So like this would be the game that they have to say, this is us, we're back. And I don't think they do that with a 2D platformer.
I think people are going to be skeptical of anything they put out, because they actually did put something out. I think it was 2 years ago. They put a game out, and it was a Contra game.
Oh, that thing.
Yeah.
The Panda one.
That is what people are going into. Into Konami's return with. And you know what? I honestly don't think there's a single thing that they could put out that is going to, like, that one game is going to make everybody, scream from the rooftops, "Hey guys, Konami's back."
Now,
I think whatever they put out, no matter what, is going to be put under a microscope.
Yeah.
And is going to be marred by the past, no matter how good it is.
Now, but that's why they need a win. That's why they need a big win. That's why they can't open with just a 2D. That's why the Metroid Dread thing works for Nintendo, because nobody's going to put that game under a microscope. It's a fucking Metroid game. It's Metroid 5 from Nintendo, who has been releasing games for the last 10 years successfully. Whereas anything, just like you said, anything Konami releases is like, remember the Panda Contra game from 3 years ago, and then all the fucking Plinko systems. So whatever they put out has to be a big fucking game. It's got to be one that's like, wow, I want to play that. And I don't think a 2D platformer is like, a 2D platformer isn't going to pull in the numbers that they're going to want to pull in to justify making these games.
See, I think that doing something that is going to be a safer bet with reception, but isn't going to make that big of a splash in the return, is a better bet for them in the long run, because then they can start to change. They can start to change the course of the conversation. It's like, well, right now it's like Konami has just been gone screwing around with their Plinko machines or whatever. But, they came back and they had this. Like, okay, that was fine. Then they bring something else out. It's like, well, that last thing they did was okay, so maybe they're onto something. And it's a slow building of that trust and that momentum back. Because if you go into your first foray back into the spotlight, guns blazing, thinking that no matter what you like, whatever it is that they put out is going to be this huge, massive hit, I feel like they would just be setting themselves up for more failure in the immediate future that way, honestly.
I mean, they need, first of all,
they need something. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing, but
so first of all, I do want to say your logic is good. I think it could go either way, personally. I don't agree with what you're saying as the right way to go, but like, I think that your logic behind it is good. Does that make sense? Like, I respect that. I'm not gonna like pick holes in it, because I think that's good logic. I don't think that would work, because I think a platformer that gets a 9 overall, a 9 out of 10 overall, undersells to a open world massive game that gets a 7 every time. I mean, in this situation, like I said, you put Metroid Dread up against a 7, it's gonna outsell it, because it's because of what they've done, because of what Nintendo's done, Whereas in this situation, with just a company, like, basically we're looking at Konami untested at this point. Basically, in this situation, I think an open world, in-depth, like possibly RPG mechanics, that kind of game with a 7 is going to sell more copies than a platformer that's 9. And I think we got to look at it from a financial standpoint. Like, they need a win, but they don't necessarily need a big win. They need to get everybody saying, hey, that was a decent game, I'd like to see a sequel. And it needs to be big enough to draw enough people to say that, instead of like the platforming community and the Castlevania community, which at this point is actually kind of small, saying this is the best game ever made. Okay, great. That's not going to make them the numbers that they need to see. And we've got to remember that Konami is a very monetarily influenced company. They're not a company that's doing this for the art. Okay? They haven't
Right.
been for a long time. I mean, because they've been making fucking slot machines for the last 10 years. So, like, they are doing it for the money. They're like, there's money in gaming, we're coming back to gaming. That's what they're doing. So, for that to happen, we need to see something that's going to make them money so that they can, in turn, go back to people and say it. I, personally, the thing that I think they need to make, you would absolutely hate it and get very mad. You're gonna get mad that
I'm already getting mad.
you're gonna get mad
I'm
that I
already
even
getting
say
mad.
it. But what they need is a new world. That's what they need. They need, and they've got a Castlevania property with a huge world with a ton of really cool characters. Like, they need that customization. They need players with player agency. And I'm not saying it should be an MMO, but I definitely think that they should get in the internet space with it and that they should open it up. Because personally, one thing about Castlevania is the stories are all told. Like, unless you do something crazy with it, I think one of the things about Castlevania that kind of sucked is by the end, it was a little stale story-wise. Like, I mean, it just was. Like, the plots were the same kind of every time. And I think that hurt it. I mean, yes, the mechanics started to get worse and worse as they went into the 3D. But I think if they give this to a 3D company that can really work on a 3D game and they say open it up, maybe not make it so much about the story and make it more about player agency, basically giving players like, hey, make a character in Castlevania world and play that character, I think that is the way to go for them. I think that's going to make them all the money, and then that gets them making videos again, games again, and then finally, I will get the Blades of Steel remake that I longest setup for a joke ever. Blades of Steel, the worst hockey game ever made.
There are very few things that I think that you and I talk about on this podcast that I'm like staunchly against. I think I can typically see a way, some way or another.
That's bullshit. You're staunchly against half the shit I say. Half the shit I say, you're staunchly against.
A like live servicey choose your own adventure Castlevania with seasonal updates
It'd be amazing.
is
Be
the
absolutely
worst.
amazing.
Absolutely the worst.
I would
possible
salivate
thing
over it.
ever happened.
I would pre-order it immediately. I would be super excited about it. I'd get in every beta. It would be phenomenal. To give me the player agency over such a cool, lush world would be just so exciting. Would just be so exciting. I don't know I don't know why you want companies to tell you everything instead of play everything. Like, I don't know why you want that. I mean, like, I feel like you should watch more movies. Like, because like that's how you play video games. You just, like, for me, a video game is going into another world and experiencing that world. You don't experience a world if you're on rails and they're just shoveling everything into you the whole fucking time. That's not a world to me. That's not experiencing a world. I'm not experiencing any player choice, any agency. Like, that's what's fun of a video game to me. And I get it. We're just different players. But, like, that's why I would salivate at that. To open up the Castlevania world and let players do it. Now, don't get me wrong. I will admit they could very easily do that wrong. Because a lot of companies have very easily done this kind of thing wrong. But, again, games as service are not inherently bad. It's just what people do with that term that make people upset with it. And you could do a game like this with Castlevania that would just be fucking awesome. Awesome.
See, I feel like it would have to be something other than Castlevania then. I think if Bloodstained came in and that was their hook, then I think like maybe that could have worked for that. The whole Castlevania has always been this one thing. It has always been
that's the problem with it.
Fighting against Dracula, and in the end, Dracula's vanquished. But again, even with Breath of the Wild, it was the same sort of thing. They just changed how you got from point A to point B. Now,
Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt, but Breath of the Wild completely redefined what a Zelda game was. And that's why Breath of
But
the Wild worked. It had nothing to do with the story. The story is stale in Breath of the Wild. It's a terrible story. It's the same goddamn story you play in every game. The reason Breath of the Wild is good is because it's not like all the other Zelda games, and that's what Castlevania needs, is a game that's not like all the other Castlevania games.
if they made it like open world, I could get down with that.
Okay. All right.
I could get down with an open world. They kind of did something like that with what was it, Curse of Darkness.
I think you got to have multiplayer in there somewhere, though. You just do, and I think you have to have some more player agency. Like especially with open world. Open worlds are really awesome when you get to experience them with friends. Like they're great when you play them by yourself, but I'd love it if you could just, like, even if it wasn't a full games of service, you could just get like 4 friends in like Borderlands, and they could play with their created characters. Like, maybe you make a Belmont, maybe you make a vampire, maybe you make one of the pirate guys from 3. Like, that'd be just so fucking cool. Or a sorceress. A sorceress, like the fucking sorceress in 3. I can't remember any of their names for some reason, even though I played these games so much and even watched the anime. Like, but I can't remember their names. But, like, that kind of stuff would just be so fucking cool.
Now, there are some aspects that would work.
Yeah.
Like there are some aspects like, let's say, not necessarily grinding, but like a loot sort of system could work in Castlevania. Something along those lines. Absolutely, loot and gear can work.
The loot already works in the side-scrolling game we talk about. That's the best thing about Symphony of the Night is the loot system.
Exactly. You can bring that in, and that can easily be plugged right in there. And you put it in an open 3D world, then yeah, I can see that becoming a thing. But having like
but you got a company that makes slot machines.
That's the problem. That's
not the problem. Okay.
That's the fact that that's what they wanted to do is, like you said, they're primarily there to make money. They see that gaming is a thing. Oh shit, there's actually money in this now.
Right.
Well, with the little asterisk, there's money, there's crazy money if you can either do the thing that literally everyone and their mother wants and make the perfect game, which is very hard to do, or just slap a bunch of microtransactions in there and whatnot. And I get this terrible feeling that Konami's not going to be able to resist that urge.
Okay.
I think whatever it is that they get, they're going to just make it seasonal, rotating, FOMO, spend this premium currency.
I don't necessarily disagree with the reality of that. I don't necessarily disagree with the reality of that. My kind of point was like, we're kind of doing a hypothetical fantasy thing here. And we're also saying, what do they need to break in with? But, like, they're all about making money. But that doesn't mean that they necessarily need to make a bad game. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that doesn't mean that they necessarily need to do it bad, you know? Like, there are plenty of games out there in this kind of vein that don't do the microtransactions wrong, that do them in a way that's acceptable, that's not terrible. And they still make a ton of money off of it. I'm not saying Konami would do that. Yes, Konami can be a little bit money grubbing, and that could definitely put a bad spin on this. But if they could do this the correct way, they could see it as like, we're going to make tons of money off this because of microtransactions. People are going to love to play in this world. It's going to be great. And I think that, like, in a perfect world, it comes out great. It comes out great. And I think that's the best way that they can break in. And I don't think, going back to your point about like making it a different like property or different IP, they can't do that. They can't do that because of the position they're in. If they were making like an open world game and they were a company that's been making games for 10 years, you know, okay, make it a different property, it'll probably still sell because people are like, hey, Konami makes okay games. But they don't. They haven't in a long time. So they have to attach that fucking name to it. There's just no way they make any money. I mean, one thing about it is if they say, hey, Castlevania, you know, open world, games of servicey, player agency, make your own character sort of thing. Okay, that sells just based on the name at the very least. But if Konami, in the current situation they are, said, hey, we're making just a random open world games of servicey game, no one would even try it is the problem.
Right.
And like they'll try it because of Castlevania, and if it's good, then that brings them to the table, you know.
Now, you know what could very well. We're getting really hung up on this, and I just
We
want
are.
one more suggestion to bring Castlevania
Sure.
back. That would be a perfect fit for it. Absolute 100% perfect fit.
Right.
Make it, if they want to do 3D, make it a Souls-like.
I am. I guess I hate Souls
think-
games. I hate them.
I know, I know, and they're
I don't
not
understand the point of
necessarily-
them. Like
They're not necessarily my bag either. Maybe tone down the difficulty to make it more accessible to others, but God forbid you ask for, difficulty modes in a game that's based around being hard.
right.
But I think that could be that could be a ticket back in.
I think
that right there could be a ticket back in.
I think personally, no matter what you do, you have to do something different with that franchise. Even though that franchise has been dead for 20 years, that's why I'm saying you can't just make another platformer game. You just can't. And you definitely can't just make it about either Alucard or the Belmonts killing Dracula. It can't be about that again. Or if it is, there has to be more nuance to it. That game, you can't make that game again because you've made that game so many times. If you want to bring it out, and unless they're going to do Castlevania, the first fucking game, and they're going to make that like a 3D open world game where you play Simon Belmont and they're going to reboot it from start to finish, like, okay, all right, I might be on board for that, but like you can't just do another platformer where like you can't just do another entry into that series. You just can't. It's just too much. It's too much, and it's been too dead for too long. You got to do something different with it. It's all I'm saying. God, I am drenched in fucking sweat.
That's just
It's the worst.
delicious.
It's the worst.
I seriously, we talked about this a little bit between, but like, no, my air conditioner's on. I don't care.
Well,
care.
good for fucking
I don't
you.
care.
And good
I
for
don't
fucking you.
care.
It's like 62 degrees outside, and for some reason, it's just so fucking hot in my house. Okay, all right. Well, we're done with this subject, I think, right?
Sure.
I think we can both agree that the first game they need to open with is Blades of Steel. Remake Blades of Steel.
I don't even know what Blades of Steel is.
What the fuck, Neil? What the fuck? Okay, all right. Well, let's go to odds and ends.
Okay.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, everybody. That brings us to odds and ends, our final segment. In this segment, we like to collect smaller news stories that don't necessarily deserve a full talking point, but we want to make you aware of. We want to just talk about it, riff on it, whatever. So, with that said, I have 4. Neil, you have 3, correct?
Yes.
I will start us off then. And the big story right now is against all the fucking odds, man. New World, Amazon New World, is good. I mean, it's crazy. They promised 3 AAA games. 1 got canceled. 1 got shut down after 2 weeks because it was that bad. New World then had 2 betas, 1 in which they bricked a bunch of fucking graphics card. They had 5 delays, and somehow it has released, and people love it. It's all over Twitch. It's all over YouTube. It's actually, from what I've seen, it's actually a pretty decent game. Philbilly and Filthy Phil are playing it. Filthy Phil is like, all the chips are in on that one. So, yeah, New World's good. Who would have thunk it?
Yeah, and that's just absolutely bizarre. When you have
Bizarre.
2 out of 3 of your projects right out of the gate are just trash garbage, and like Amazon's got their own streaming service rolling out and everything, like game streaming, that is.
Luna.
Rolling out and everything. Yeah, Luna. And just completely out of the blue, nowhere, they have this game that's just like, hey guys, what the fuck is up?
Yeah.
And it's just wrecking shop. It's bizarre.
It's weird because I was so convinced it was going to be bad. Like, I was like, that's going to be the final nightmare, and then Amazon Studios is going to go away. Because they did Crucible. Crucible it was so bad that after 2 weeks it shut down. There was another game that I cannot remember the name of, but it was like a medieval, like 4v4 hero fighter thing. Never came out, got canceled. New World had 5 delays, and one of the betas bricked a bunch of 3090s, And somehow, I was just like, there's no way. There's no way this game is anything more than an abysmal failure when it comes out. It comes out, it's good. I've watched it on Twitch. I've actually asked some Twitch people that I'm following what they think about it. Everybody seems to enjoy it. There are some things that they do that isn't great. Some of the grinding is really annoying, and there's a lot of it. But one thing that they do that's amazing that everybody's talking about is the combat system. Because basically, like, most MMOs... Have you played an MMO before?
I have played an MMO before.
All right, so you know what I'm about to say with the combat. Basically, you have a list of abilities at the bottom. You run into combat, and it's clicking a mouse on the ability that you want to use over and over and over again until it dies, right? Like, that's what combat is. With this, there's actually like a block and an attack. There's actually strafing. It actually works. Distance matters. It's much more like a Skyrim battle system than, like, it's not the most involved, but it's an actually involved battle system instead of just run here, click on an enemy till it dies, run here, click on an enemy until it dies. So that really is what appeals to me personally.
Well, I mean, good for it. I didn't know it was an MMO.
I mean, I don't know if we should be happy about it. I don't know, but I mean...
a game has come out that people enjoy. I mean, that's a rare thing anymore.
I don't know that I'm happy it's from Amazon, but, I mean, okay, all right. Your first one.
All right, so I shared this in on the Discord, but Randy Pitchford is stepping down, ... from leading the games division over at Gearbox. He's going to be focusing more so on their TV and movie division because, of course. Great. I mean, new ideas in things. We just got done talking about new ideas, changing things up. They're always a good thing. This, though, I don't think this necessarily changes much of anything because he's still going to be he's still going to be CEO of the company.
Right.
He's just stepping down from being in charge of games. So,
and the real problem, and I'm on record as saying Randy Pitchford's a scumbag. And the real problem that I had with him was never his influence on the game itself. It was his influence on the people that he screws over constantly. So, like, this doesn't change that. He remains CEO. He could still screw people over. Like, okay, he doesn't have influence on the game, but honestly, the only positive that's come out of him ever was influence on the game. So, like, I don't know that this is a good thing. I will say that, like, this probably comes on the heels of the fact that Gearbox is bought by somebody. I cannot remember who. Was it Devolver? It wasn't Devolver. Somebody else.
Yeah,
they're owned by a different company. They're not their own thing anymore, and that's good because that means that Randy Pitchford is going to have less agency over people, regardless of whatever role he's in. Personally, I don't love this because I feel like it's almost like the company that bought them couldn't work with Randy Pitchford, so they put him in a CEO role, which is basically just collect a paycheck. Because he's basically what I think happened is, like, we hate this guy, we can't get rid of him because of our contract, he won't step down, we're gonna make you this and just don't talk to anybody more and collect a paycheck. And I don't like it when shitty guys collect paychecks for not doing anything. So I really think that's what this is. So I'm less excited about it than I was when I saw the headline. I'll say that.
Right. Yeah, same. And of course, when I saw the headline, it was worded in such that Randy Pitchford, like, isn't a thing anymore. Farewell, Randy. Go do magic somewhere else.
Right.
And
you fucking
that's not exactly the case, unfortunately.
Yeah. So moving on to mine, Grounded is about to release its next update, still in game preview, and that game right there is one of the few shining examples of a games as service. I know it hasn't fully released yet, but that's the whole point. It takes feedback from people, it puts that feedback into the game, it makes people happy, there's no microtransactions in it. It's a great game. It's just a great game. I don't play it anymore because I can't deal with the bugs, but Yeah, so
Like the bugs as in issues, or the bugs as in the bugs?
the bugs. I mean, there are bug
Okay.
issues in it, but the bugs. But the hot haze will actually introduce new landscapes and a new biome. It added the sandbox desert, so they added a sandbox to the backyard, and that's going to be their desert biome, which I think is really kind of a cute, cool idea. They also redid the haze, which was this gassy, poisonous part. They've added a bunch of bugs, which I don't have the list in front of me. But one thing they've added is a bunch of RPG elements to it. They redid the armor and weapon system. You can actually upgrade weapons now. If you like a weapon, you can actually. There's one thing that I always hated is I liked one type of weapon and it was kind of mid-range. But you can actually upgrade weapons, give them more traits and powers. They actually gave downsides to having heavier armor, but boosted its tanking ability, so the armor actually has a reason to choose different armors. And then they also made it so that you can actually upgrade your avatar's stats, like an RPG, so you can actually make your character better, which is, I think, really awesome. Really awesome way to take it, and just a really cool update.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got 2 weeks in a row now. How to get Google Stadia for free news. Google Stadia.
Finding a way.
Google Stadia is now giving away the Premier Bundle to literally anybody at all who buys a game $60 and up in value. I'm astounded that they went for the $60. Now, from what I understand, before, in the past, this was like a limited time deal. From what I understand, this is like a permanent thing.
Is this the final? Like, the only other thing they can do is just start shipping Stadias to people for free. Like, like pick people out of the phone book. Like, Aaron A, send him one.
Yeah, this is again is getting sadder and sadder and sadder as this continues. And
what are we doing, Google?
Right, none of these things are going to bring people into Stadia, are going to bring people back.
No.
It's all about their implementation and what it is that they have to offer.
Yep.
And it's nothing. It's
nothing.
Absolutely nothing. You get no agency over anything, at least with like Game Pass with Project X Cloud. These are games that you can play on your console anyways. Granted, you don't own the games, but again, they are expecting you to walk right in with no anything at all. I mean, they're offering the free trial now to see if your internet can handle it, thank God, which is something that should have been there from the start. But, they're expecting $60 for a game that when they, let's be real, inevitably, once they just get tired of throwing people free things constantly, shut this down, you get nothing. You have nothing, you get nothing. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why nobody's really jumped on this. Aside from the fact that every implementation of this thing blows. But I think that's one of the biggest things is there's nothing, you get nothing to show for it.
I mean, what are we doing with this at this point? Like, you have shut down all of your first party studios. So you don't even have any original games. Like, you've given no gamer an incentive to get this other than it's free. But, like, the problem with the freeness of it is you don't get any games for free. It's not like Games Pass, where it's a service where you can play games on it for free. It's not like that. You pay a subscription, and then you have to pay for the games that you don't own. As long as that is the way it is, nobody wants it. I don't understand why Google can't get that through their head. And instead, their counter to this is, let's just start sending this useless controller to everybody. Like, it doesn't make sense to me why they haven't just called it quits on it, Personally, I think the reason they haven't is because of the backlash they'll get from the people who jumped on.
Probably.
Because those people are going to be like, we can't play our games that we've paid you for, basically. Like, we want our money back. And they would have to refund everybody who bought a game on there. Or they'd be facing a class action lawsuit, which is...
Oh, absolutely.
I think in the end, what they're going to be facing, unless they start refunding people something, or find some way to, like, make Google Stadia better. But the only way, Google, if you're listening to me right now, if
Google's
you're listening
always
to me, yeah, I know you are. Google, if you're listening to me, I want to say what you need to do to make people want this system again. You need a free library of games that they can play for your subscription. That's what you need, period. That's what people in this kind of space want. And right now, Xbox gives them that, and they give them the streaming service. So they already have you plus, okay? So you need to at least offer what Xbox is offering. And that's the only way you're going to make people care about this. The only way.
I mean, they have those games, but there's like 10.
Right. And they have a very it's not a games pass. Like they don't have a service. They have like 10 free games you can try. Like you can play. Like that's what they have. And that's nothing. You need a service. You need a service like Games Pass. That's what you need. And they don't have that. They just don't. And until they have that, or they make all the games free for their subscription cost, nobody gives a shit. You know?
Right.
All right. So my next one is an interesting one. Well, both of them are interesting. I'm going to go with the negative one first. I like to try and end positive. The negative one is Marvel's Avengers has done a shitty thing again. And
what? No.
They were just starting to turn it around, put the game in Games Pass. Apparently, the Wakanda thing kind of makes it a little bit better, from what I understand. And then, so do you remember? I don't know if you remember this, but it was one of my odds and ends a while ago. They basically said, we're nerfing the XP system, making it harder to get XP systems. And the reasoning behind it is that basically players are too stupid to understand how their characters work when they level up so fast. And a big problem I had with that, and we talked about this, is that to do any of the raids by yourself, you have to have 4 characters at a certain level. And the only way to do that by yourself is to play to grind out all 4 of those characters. So like nerfing the experience points makes it like nearly impossible, which it already was kind of nearly impossible, but basically impossible to level up 4 characters yourself unless you're only playing that game. To get to the big content of the game, which is the big raids. So that was a huge problem for me. That being said, Marvel has now added a paid XP microtransaction, meaning that you can pay a certain amount of money, and then apparently you can... apparently, it doesn't matter that you're stupid. They just want more money out of you. So basically what it is you pick a character, you pay a certain amount of money, and then that character will XP faster. Or basically XP at the rate that it was at in the beginning of the game, when the game first launched. So
raise your hand if you're surprised.
I mean, this is pretty shitty. I mean, basically, just to sum this up, they nerfed the character XP so that they could charge you for each character 2 XP at the level that they XP'd before they nerfed it. So
I mean, they took and did with the cosmetics, and all of your equipment and everything doesn't change your actual outward appearance, but by God, if you want to get your character looking different, we got things you can buy for that.
Well, and I will say that you can grind those out. Like, you can actually grind most of those out. From playing that game, you can grind most of those out. But, like, the money just makes it faster. There are a few that you just have to pay for, but overall, the majority of the cosmetic outfits are grindable. But this is kind of shady shit because you said you nerfed it because we were too stupid to understand it, and now you're gonna make us pay to be stupid, like we're paying for the confusion that you were supposedly saving us from. Like it's a little obnoxious, no matter how you play it. So your last one.
All right, so my last one, the final Smash Brothers character has been revealed. And boy,
I purposely didn't put this on my list. I knew you were going to have it.
Yeah, this one's bizarre. Like, I mean, I never in a million years would have thought.
Really?
But no, because Disney, man. I mean, I'm getting ahead of myself. But Sora from Kingdom Hearts is the last Smash Brothers character. And that's craziness to me. And I have seen a lot of people complaining online, saying, "Oh, there's not enough Disney to come along with this." Did you want Disney to put Mickey Mouse in Smash too? No. let's be real. I mean, Sora is an original Square Enix character that has no ties to anything else. And you already got Sephiroth and Cloud in Smash.
Yep.
So, I mean, let's not be greedy here.
I mean, Disney licenses those characters to Square Enix to put them in. Disney owns the Disney part of Kingdom Hearts, but Sora is 100% Square Enix's baby.
But I'm sure Disney still has a say.
I don't think they do.
I think Disney.
I don't think they do. I think if they had a say in it, it wouldn't be in there.
But they also low-key passively announced in the middle of this stream revealing Sora that all of the Kingdom Hearts games are also coming to the Switch as well via streaming, which I will not be buying them because I have all of the games multiple times across all the different platforms. I don't need them on Switch, especially via streaming. But another part of this as well is, I don't know if you heard about this part of it, Guy Fieri got in on the fun and posted a video of him being the last character in Smash via Twitter. It's only like 15 seconds long. It's hilarious.
That is fun. I'm gonna have to check that out. That's funny.
Yeah, it was funny. Like I say, it was only like 15 seconds long, but it was great. But yeah, Final Smash character, and it was Sakurai's last time. Apparently, his last time revealing anything for Smash Brothers. I hope we can let this poor man rest. Please let this poor man rest. If he doesn't want to do it again, don't make him do it again. Get somebody else in there. They drag him back every single time to do Smash games, and I don't know as if the Nintendo Switch 2 or whatever it is that they end up putting out, when they inevitably make a new Smash Brothers game in 6-7 years, if we need to keep dragging this poor man back.
Yeah, I agree. All right, my final one. Little bit positive, maybe negative. I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure how to take this one because it's kind of weird. So Capcom, I don't remember who it was from Capcom, but somebody from Capcom, a higher up, was interviewed about certain things at TGS, and they actually straight up said that their focus going forward is on PC gameplay from now on.
I heard about this.
Which is really strange to me because they have been predominantly a console company, and so much so that, like, you look at the Monster Hunter games, they usually don't come out on PC for like a year after the game comes out. So it's kind of crazy to me that this is their focus. Like, they kind of just said, like, oh yeah, we're doing PC now, just like we've kind of always been. And I'm like, this is a complete and total 180. But I will say, as a PC player now, I am very happy to see that Capcom games will be coming out probably on PC from now on in parity, which is really good. And I do want to say, you remember last week when I said I thought Monster Hunter Rise was released on PC in tandem?
Yeah.
I remember why I was confused, because Monster Hunter Stories was. That one was on both. And that's why I got confused, because I confused the two. So yeah, that's why I was confused. But yeah, so I think but Monster Hunter Stories was released on both, which is interesting, since that is actually the most recent release from Capcom, big name release. So they've already kind of started to do that. We'll have to see what they do going forward. But I think this is very interesting, and I think it's very interesting. Like so PC focus. Like, what does that mean for them? Like,
I hope it just means like day and date with console.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a smart move for them to step out of the console space and just go straight to PC, because
it'd be very weird.
Well, I don't think it'd be necessarily even just weird. I think that they would be really suffering sales wise, because sure, PC is pretty much the best way to play anything anymore, but not everybody has a gaming PC. No, not everybody has access to get the stuff to get. I mean, Lord knows the chip shortage now, they've said, is going through 2022. So, I mean, it keeps on going. And now you make the announcement that you want to go to PC. I can't imagine that it's PC only. That would just be a bad move, I think, all around.
That's I mean, I
Unless it
agree
has
with
to
you.
do with profit splitting for digital marketplaces and publishing. And if that's the case, then so be it. But I don't think that the difference in what they would be saving from the publishing fees is going to cover up the sales that they're losing from ditching console.
Can I tell you what I'm really scared of?
What's that?
Another fucking one of these Portal app things. That's what I'm scared of. Ubisoft's
Portal.
got one. Epic,
Launcher.
Steam. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm really afraid like that we're gonna end up with another Blizz.net, but for Capcom with this kind of focus, and that allows them to kind of like streamline their sales right to people on PC. I'm very afraid that that's what we're gonna see, and I'm fingers crossed that doesn't happen personally.
So, wow. Okay. Breaking
I was
odd
about to
and
say,
end.
are you like having an orgasm right now?
Breaking odd and end.
Okay.
Literally just now.
All right.
So I'm going to be reading it kind of as I'm seeing it.
Sure.
Here. California steps in to prevent Activision Blizzard from destroying sexual harassment evidence.
Oh.
So from what I'm seeing here, the DFEH, whatever that is, I don't have a breakdown of what that is. Okay. The California Department of Fair Employment and Housing has intervened and notified both Activision and Blizzard that like they're basically watching to make sure that no more evidence gets destroyed, because apparently that's something that we have to be concerned about with Activision.
I'd like to know how they're watching though. Like
I don't know.
like I'd like to know what steps they've taken there. But that's good.
I mean, that's true. Yeah. See if there's anything else that I'm missing here, because I'm literally reading it as it is. But yeah, this is. Apparently there's something too saying that basically if they are found to have done any of these things, it's going to add extra charges as well as modify any existing agreements that they have for settlements. So yeah.
That'll really hurt that 18 million bullshit, that's for sure.
Right.
Well, good,
Jeez.
good. I mean, fingers crossed something comes of it. I don't think anything will, but fingers crossed something comes of it. I very much hope I'm wrong on a regular basis.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that's it for odds and ends then. Right?
I do believe so, yes.
All right.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the show and the shameless self-promotion that comes with it. Neil, you got anything special you want to plug?
Well, we did have our last episode of Halo Infinite Road go up, and that is the one where we do the things. And it is a stupid long episode and also simultaneously a blast at the same time. So you guys should check that out. And it's something that Zach and I have discussed. I don't know when we would be able to do this, but we might be able to do something more along those lines on a very random, very indefinite sort of basis via streaming, because that was one single match, 1 hour and some odd minutes long.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it was basically a stream. What Neil is talking about specifically is Season 4, Episode 10, which is the season finale of Episode 4. The episode name is Hot Ass Bongo. I spelled ass with $2 because, you know, I'm a thug like that. One thing I want to say, it is long, but if you watch one episode of Halo Infinite Road, make it that one. Make it that one. Because it is absolutely ridiculous. We do firefight, and what's interesting is we were dying like, I want to say like 17 minutes in. We were almost out of lives. It's crazy. I don't want to ruin it for you guys, so just check it out. Just check it the fuck out if you have the time. If not, I understand. But if you have the time, check it out. It was really magical, and I definitely want to plug it myself. And yeah, we'll definitely try and stream that at some point. I don't want to commit into any times right now, but
we wouldn't be able to do anything on a regularly
Right.
scheduled basis. It
Well,
would be
and that's the thing.
a shot text message or something saying, "Hey, are you doing anything? Let's do the thing."
It'll probably be on Twitch too, because I've been I've been randomly streaming
You've been
on Twitch.
randomly twitching?
I mean,
You
I
should
do
go to a
that
doctor.
regularly. I do that regularly anyway. But yeah, I've been randomly streaming on Twitch a lot. So if you guys like me, and you want more of me in your life, I'm on Twitch a lot lately, like a lot. So check that out. As far as what I would like to plug, please check out OMGW. So much work into it. We are now knee deep into season 3. The stories have been the absolute best so far, and I'm really excited for everything we have for you on that. I also do want to plug the Twitch channel again. I have been streaming. I'm streaming that constantly. Like whenever I play games, basically, I'm streaming on Twitch right now. I kind of get it on the streaming now. It's really cool and it's really interesting, and I'm trying to get to affiliates. So if you know anybody, please hit that follow button on Twitch or tell somebody else to hit it. And I'm streaming just all sorts of stuff, so much that I'm actually transferring it over to YouTube. If you want to stick to just watching me on YouTube, but you also want to get in on the Twitch stuff, I do a replay of a couple of things. My No Man's Sky games on Tuesdays, and then Epic OMG on Fridays, which is basically the procedurally generated medieval game. But I'm taking characters, taking people from our community and making them in the game, and then trying to do their voices. It's amazing. I can't say enough. I'm very proud of it as far as a solo thing, because I'm doing voice work badly. It's just great. So check that out. I've been releasing that on Fridays. And then on Saturdays, I've been actually trying to do a highlight reel of all the Twitches from the week. I don't know if I'll be able to maintain that, but so far I have, so check those out. So that's what I'll plug, and then from that point on, you guys can reach us on Facebook at OMadGamingDH, on Twitter at OMadGaming9. You can join our Discord, links in the description below. I do want to just give a couple of quick disclaimers before we get out of here, or announcements. Neil has to take another week off. He is not going to be here next week. So instead of doing a show without him, I recorded another interview show, and I'm going to be putting that together, which I'm very excited about. I interviewed Danny from England, or Britain, or UK. I interviewed which I stream with her a lot on Twitch. It was kind of a streamer sort of thing. I interviewed Jason the Professor, which was a very interesting interview. And then I interviewed Seatown 1980, who is another streamer from Twitch that I've been doing a lot with. So that will be up the week after this. That will be up. And then we'll be back with Neil after that. So check that out. And as long as you guys keep watching and listening, we'll keep making them. See you guys next week.
Yeah, well.
Pause. Okay, Blades of Steel. It's one of the greatest games ever made. Me and my brother used to play it all the time. It was a Nintendo game. It was from Konami, and it was obviously made by people in Japan who did not understand what hockey was at all. So like you could pick a team from a list, like it was like, and they didn't have necessarily the team name, but it was like Edmonton or New York or whatever. And then you'd play a game of hockey, but it was like a weird almost side-scrolling, and it had kind of like up and down the screen sort of situations. And you were super fast, so it wasn't like a top-down like most hockey games. It was like weird. But there were no rules, and if you checked someone enough times, you'd get in a fight, and then the person who lost the fight would be put in the penalty box.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not how...
That's not how hockey works.
That's not how hockey works.
I have played hockey. I can assure you that is not how hockey works. It's... And so what you could do is you could just like check somebody and then beat up their team until they only had like 3 people left, and then just keep scoring on them. Like it was total lunacy, and me and my brother loved that shit. We loved it. I remember playing it the first time. We got in the fight. It was like, all right, well, you beat me up. Will you go to the penalty box? And then they just drag my dead ass into the penalty box. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
Oh God.
It would be awesome though if they made that again the same way, and it was like Shaolin soccer but hockey.
Yeah, no, I think
I'd take my money.
From what I have Googled in us talking about this and what you have described to me, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely 100%.
All right, Blades of Steel all the way. I remember it would open up and it would be like Blades of Steel, like, but it was like a very like samurai Blades of Steel is here, you know. It's just great. And then they had this like halftime show where it was basically just like Gradius, like a Gradius shooter. That game is just so much fun. I want a 3D remake where it's just anime. Like you have just like ridiculous shots and the puck turns into like explosives or splits or something. Just anime hockey. That's what I want.
I could get down with that.
Right? Take my fucking money. All right.